Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome back to our Sravan Utsav. And for the next 4 days, we are going to celebrate Ramanavami. And we have special sessions organized with Shubha Vilas Prabhuji for 2 days and His Holiness Devamrit Swami Maharaj for 2 days. So, today we are having Shubha Vilas Prabhuji here for the first time in our Shravan Utsav. But I'm hoping that it will not be the last time, and we will see him many more times now going forward. Now that we have the relationship established and the connection established with Prabhuji, and when the travel begins, I'm hoping to see Shubha Vilas Prabhuji in person as well, just like we get Chaitanya Charan Prabhu and few others from Mumbai. I'm hoping that Shubha Vilas Prabhu can also come to Wellington, and we are able to hear from him in person. A brief introduction of Prabhuji. Prabhuji is a celebrity. Prabhuji is a TEDx speaker, he's a lifestyle coach, he's a storyteller, and he's an author. But really, Prabhuji studied patent laws after completing his engineering degree. But finally, he chose the path of spiritual seeker. He's associated with Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, Mumbai, where he has served in various leadership roles in congregational development as well as in management. He's the head of ISKCON Goa, where the congregation has been on the steady growth curve under Prabhuji's leadership. Prabhuji also heads Tulsi Books, a publishing house for spiritual books. He is also the pioneer of Gita Champions League, which is now an international competition to promote Gita learning in schools. After 11 years of monkhood, Prabhuji once again set out on a mission to fulfill the objectives of his life. Prabhuji works with individuals, youth, corporates, institutes, and governments around the world through exclusive workshops, seminars, training modules, and learning retreats. The focus of Prabhuji's work is the application of scriptural wisdom in day-to-day living, addressing the needs of everyone through thought-provoking seminars. Prabhuji has delivered more than 4,000 lectures across the globe. He is also a visiting faculty at several premier management schools across India, including the Indian Institute of Management, very prestigious IIM colleges, where he teaches courses on leadership based on epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. As an author, writing books is an extension of his deep sense of responsibility towards society. He began with the monumental task of writing a series of books on Ramayana. Since then, he has written bestsellers in succession on a wide range of subjects. Apart from his book series Ramayana, The Game of Life, he has also authored the bestseller Open-Eyed Meditations and Perfect Love, 5.5 Ways to Lasting Relationships. So many books Prabhuji has written, and I'm fortunate to read some of them. And I'm currently reading the various stories that, I forgot the name of the book, Prabhuji, the various stories from the Vedas that you have compiled. Very wonderful book.
Tales for Magical Life.
Yes, Prabhuji. That's a very nice book. And if you want to know more about Shubha Vilas Prabhuji, then you can visit his website, shubhavilas.com. Today, Prabhuji is going to speak on, of course, Ramayana topic, but he had chosen a topic, Insights from Sundara Kaanda of Ramayana. So we are very fortunate to hear directly from Prabhuji here. He has a deep study on Ramayana. And then on 11th, where on that day we have Ram Navami in Wellington. Actually, in India, it is 10th, but in Wellington, it is 11th of April. So on the Ram Navami day, Prabhuji is also going to speak on another interesting topic. So let us show our gratitude for Prabhuji by loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhuji. Over to you. Hare Krishna.
Very nice to see so many cameras on. Like a culture shock for me. I'm used to giving zooms with nobody putting on the cameras. But I'm so grateful to all of you for being so kind enough to put on the cameras. It makes life so simple. So much more simpler for us who are speaking. I just offer a small prayer and begin the session. मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च कृष्णानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Very grateful and honored to be amidst all of you all on this online forum. New Zealand is a holy place for all of us, especially because such an exalted saint like Devamrit Maharaj stays there. So we consider that place to be a very holy dham, and you all are very, very fortunate to be connected to such a holy place and to such an illustrious Mahabhagat. Devamrit Maharaj is such a source of inspiration for me personally. I mean, I derive so much inspiration from him. I mean, his intelligence and the way he speaks is so amazing. But more than that, the way he laughs is so inspiring. So there is a lot that all of us from Chopati, gain from Devamrit Maharaj's association. So, serving all of y'all is like my a little way of reciprocating with what I've gained from Maharaj. Having said that, we begin Sundara Kaanda of Ramayana. I can assure you all, after today's session, the next 1 hour, whatever I'm going to speak, you will be convinced you don't know Ramayana at all. So if you get convinced that you don't know Ramayana at all, that's the success of my session. And it will inspire you all to go back and study the Ramayana seriously, because the Ramayana has so much to offer the world. In the last 8 years or so, I've been diving deep into the Ramayana, and the amount of nectar that I have personally gained is just unbelievable. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of nectar on all of you today, and hopefully that will inspire you all in your personal journeys and spiritual lives. Okay. So the section of the Sundara Kaanda discussion that I'm going to be sharing with you all begins with the Vanara army going towards the south of India in search of Mother Sita. So obviously there are many other divisions of the Vanara army that have gone to different directions, but this particular division of the army is going to the south, and it is headed by Angad. And in that team are some very illustrious people, including Jambavan, Nala, Neela, Hanumanji. All of them are part of that team. When they begin the journey from Kishkinda going towards the south, the Vanara is all excited. They're very enthusiastic. They're very energetic, In the beginning of the journey, Sugriv is leading them, and Hanuman is right at the back of them. Sugriva represents intelligence. In the beginning of our spiritual lives, we need intelligence to direct us. And Hanuman represents faith. So in the beginning of our spiritual lives, intelligence should be in the front and faith should be at the back. The Vanaras were very excited at the beginning of the journey. I mean, they didn't leave one single mountain, one single tree, one single cave unexplored. They were really so excited that they thought they will find Sita that day only. In the beginning of your spiritual lives, we are all excited, isn't it? I mean, the first few months and the first few years are so exciting in your spiritual journey, and we almost feel that we'll find Bhakti Devi today only. Sita represents Bhakti Devi, and we are all in the search of Bhakti, just like Hanumanji is in the search of Bhakti. And in the initial phase of our spiritual life, it all seems so easy. Chanting seems so easy. The beads, they move in your fingers just like there is butter in your fingers. Smoothly they glide. But as you pass the number of years in spiritual life and as you pass the number of years in Krishna consciousness, suddenly the heat sets in. It's not exactly so exciting after some time. So the monkeys, in the beginning they were excited, but at a certain point in the journey, almost for 1 month they had been searching for Sita. And they didn't find any trace of Sita. Then they started becoming a little despondent. They actually started kind of going down in their inspiration. The beginning of our spiritual lives is like, I don't know how many of you have driven a screw into a slot, In the beginning of, when you drive a screw into a slot, in the beginning you can just do it with your hand, fingers only. You just turn it around and it goes smoothly in. But that last one little bit, that last one little inch is where it takes all your energy. It takes all your focus. It takes real intense efforts. In the beginning of spiritual life, it's very smooth to practice spirituality. But as you grow in the path of spirituality and the number of years pass, that's when it becomes intense. The monkeys entered a forest. And this forest is known as the forest of doubts. It was hot. It was intense. No water, no food to eat. So much heat on them. The monkeys were going crazy. Some of them just wanted to give up. Some of them were so exhausted they were not able to move around. And all of them began to doubt whether they will ever find Sita in their lives. All of us, in the beginning, are very excited. And when we come across certain situations in our life where it becomes difficult, that's when we start thinking, what am I doing here? Am I in the right path? Am I in the right process? Does the process ever work? Is there someone called Bhakti Devi existing in this world? All kinds of doubts keep coming up. Interestingly, among all these Vanaras that were, searching for Sita, was also Hanuman. Hanuman was, interestingly, not experiencing any heat, not experiencing any frustration that all the other Vanaras were experiencing. Why? Hanuman was exactly like all of them. He was one of them. But how come Hanuman didn't experience what the others were experiencing? And that's very interesting. Because Hanuman had a thought in his mind which really helped him with this. When they began the journey, they all met Lord Ram. All the Vanaras, one by one, went and met Lord Ram. And when they met Lord Ram blessed them, encouraged them, inspired them. In fact, he touched everybody on their heads, patted them on their backs. He gave a lot of encouragement to each and every one individually. But when it came to Hanuman's turn, Ram kept his hand on Hanuman's head. Hanuman did something amazing. You know what Hanuman did? He closed his eyes and absorbed the feeling of Lord Ram's hand on his head. He just absorbed it into his heart. And from then on, wherever he traveled, he always felt Ram's hand is on his head. And because he felt the hand of Lord Ram on his head, it was cooling and the heat of the sun didn't affect him at all. While for all others, just like for all of us, we all get a little bit mercy here and there from our teachers, from our gurus, from the Lord also. But for us, we are so inattentive when that mercy is coming that the next instant only we forget it. We don't savor that mercy. We don't relish, we don't keep that mercy in our hearts. And therefore, we keep needing it all the time. We keep needing that experiences all the time. People like Hanumanji have the ability to savor that mercy whenever it comes. So interestingly, at some point during their journey, they came across a cave, a large cave. This is a deep, dark cave. So far, if you remember, I had told you right in the beginning that Angad was leading the army, right? He was right in the front, he was a leader. And Angad represents intelligence. And Hanuman was right at the back of the army. And Hanuman represents faith. Hanuman is Pavanaputra, isn't it? He is the son of the wind god. When wind blows from the front, it stops you from moving ahead. But when wind blows from behind, it actually takes you faster ahead. And that's why Hanumanji was at the back. He was pushing everyone to go ahead in their journeys. But when the cave came, Angad lost his confidence. Angad represents intelligence. He knew exactly how to go, where to go, and all that. But when he saw the cave, he lost his confidence. The cave was a deep, dark cave. If you put your hand inside, you can't even see your own hand. That dark. Angad said, I can't go in. Because in his father Vali's life, all problems began with cave only. Vali had gone inside one cave to fight against a demon named Mayavi. And he was fighting for like 1 year inside that cave. And Sugriv heard a sound that sounded like Vali is dead. And Sugriv covered the cave and came out. And from that point onwards, from the time Vali went into the cave, all problems began in Vali's life. So Angad, the moment he saw the cave, he lost his confidence. He said, I can't go in. There are many problems in life that intelligence cannot help you solve. Till you come across problems in life that intelligence can help you solve it using intelligence. But there will always be some problems that intelligence cannot help you with. That is the time you bring faith in the front. So when Angad said, I can't do it, Hanumanji came in the front. He said, I'll do it. There are many problems that intelligence cannot solve, but faith can easily handle them. Angad went right at the back. In the beginning stages of your spiritual life, you bring intelligence in the front and faith at the back. But at some point in your spiritual life, you have to bring faith in the front and keep your intelligence at the back. So Angad went to the back and stood. Hanumanji went straight ahead into the cave, alone, absolutely with no fear. Because in his heart, he knew that Ram is guiding me. Ram's hand is over my head. And completely fearlessly, Hanumanji walked in. The next Vanara who was behind Hanuman, he caught the tail of Hanuman and walked behind him. The fellow who was at the back of him, he caught the tail of the second person and walked behind him. And like that, all the Vanaras caught the tail of the fellow in front and walked in. The only one person who walked in without any support was Hanumanji. Everybody else walked in with support of the person in front of them. This is known as Guru Parampara. Guru Parampara essentially means that you don't know God. You have not seen God. Your faith also is less. But you have faith in the person in front of you. That's all. And that person has faith in the person in front of him. That's all. Someone right in the front has full faith in God. But we don't know who that person is. Someone right in the front has, We only have faith in the person right in front of us. That's all. So the Vanaras walked in like this. And they reached right inside the cave. When they reached right into the cave opened up into a massive palatial type of building and gardens. And the Vanaras were completely bewildered that such a small cave opened up into something so big, and they lost their way. They didn't know how to come out now. Inside that place, Hanumanji found a lady who was seated in a yogic posture. Her name was Swayam Prabha, and she was intensely absorbed in meditation. But when the Vanaras came in, she opened her eyes and looked at Hanuman and the Vanaras, and she told them, "Welcome. I'm sure all of you are hungry. I've arranged food for you all." And she fed them a sumptuous meal of fruits and juices. And the Vanaras went mad eating all that fruits and juices. Some of the Vanaras said, "We don't want to go anywhere. We don't want to, search for Sita. We don't want to go back to Kishkinda. We just want to be here only. They were just so happy eating all those fruits. Interestingly, Swayam Prabha, she explained to them the nature of that particular place, and eventually she told them, "I can help you all find Sita." So the Vandas were very excited, and Swayam Prabha told them only one thing. She told them, "I will help you get out of this cave, provided you close your eyes." She told all the Vanaras to close their eyes. Now imagine, have you ever seen a monkey close his eyes? Impossible. Impossible for monkeys to just remain still for even a second, literally. And here, Swayam Prabha is telling all of them, close their eyes. So all the monkeys close their eyes, and when they close their eyes for that one moment, they felt they were flying at full speed.
Can
And
you please get me headset, please, urgent?
open their eyes. The next moment, the Vanaras opened their eyes and they found themselves outside the cave. But in front of them was a massive ocean. Now imagine if the Vanaras had not opened their eyes at all for a few minutes. They would have probably reached Lanka. Swayam Prabha was transferring them using her yogic powers. But the monkeys were able to close their eyes only for a few seconds. So they only reached that much, basically. In spiritual life, this closing your eyes is a very important element in your spiritual practices. If you really want to progress in your spiritual life, there are some times you have to just keep your eyes closed and rely on the process. Have faith in the person who is telling you to close your eyes. We are so used to using our intelligence and keeping our eyes open because we are so used to Pratyaksha Praman. That means we want to see everything with our own eyes. We want proof for everything. But not everything can be proved. Not everything can be seen. There are so many things that are intangible and inconceivable in this world. And having faith in that is so important in our spiritual lives. The first mountain on which the Vanaras climbed, on top of which there was a cave, is known as the mountain of faith. For us to progress in our spiritual life, for us to find Bhakti Devi, this is the first mountain all of us have to climb, the mountain of faith. The Vanaras reached the shore of the ocean, and eventually, through some party, they came to know that Sita is 800 miles across the ocean. Now the question is, who's going to do it? So all the Vanaras are talking about their own capacity. Some said I can do 10 miles, somebody said I can do 20 miles, somebody said I can do 50 miles, somebody said I can do 100 miles. One person said I can do 500 miles. And finally Angad said I can do 800 miles. So the Vanaras are very excited, knowing that their leader Angad can do 800 miles. But Angad said, but I'm not sure if I can come back. What's the point in going a one-way ticket, You're not going to be able to come back. Angad didn't explain why he can't come back. Obviously, the Vanaras thought that he can't come back probably because he has only that much energy to go to Lanka and not be able to come back. But Angad's problem was not energy. Jambavan realized what was Angad's real problem. Angad's real problem was that he is Vali Putra. And being the son of Vali represents temptations in life. I don't know if you understand this. Let me explain how Vali represents temptations in life. Suppose, Vali had a power by which he could gain half the strength of his enemy. So if the enemy comes in front of Vali can gain half the strength. Vali represents temptations in life. There are many temptations when we are put in front of, we lose our strength to say no. Like suppose there's a diabetes patient And diabetes patients are not supposed to eat sweets, isn't it? Now you bring a gulab jamun in front of a diabetes patient. What happens to him? What happens to his ability to say no? You know, it literally becomes half, and the gulab jamun becomes double powerful. That represents Wali. So Wali represents temptations. Wali represents the inability to say no in front of temptations. So Angad is Wali Putra, and Lanka is the olden time Las Vegas. You know, so if you go to Las Vegas, there's a good chance you may not be able to come back. You know, just get lost in that razzle dazzle of the place. You know? So Angad is very honest. He said, "I am 100% sure I can go there, but I'm not sure if I can come back." Why? Because he might just get caught in the temptations of that place. So now everybody was disappointed and dejected, and they didn't know who's going to do it. At that point, one of them, whose name was Jambavan, who was the oldest among them, he was just analyzing all the Vanaras, and he saw one of them had not spoken at all. That was Hanuman. Hanuman had not mentioned anything. So Jambavan went and sat next to him and tried to find out from Hanuman what exactly he's thinking. And interestingly, Jambavan realized that according to Hanuman, the question only is wrong. How much can you do? According to him, that question only is wrong. Therefore, he didn't answer the question. Why was the question wrong according to Hanuman? Because Hanuman felt himself to be like an arrow in the hand of Ram. How far an arrow goes doesn't depend on the arrow. You can't ask the arrow how far you will go. How far can you go? It doesn't depend on the arrow, it depends on the person who's going to shoot the arrow. And if the arrow is in the hand of Ram, he can shoot it across the universe. What's the question of 800 miles? So Hanuman felt himself to be like an arrow in the hand of Ram, and how far he goes doesn't depend on his capacity. It depends on the ability of Lord Ram. And Ram has unlimited ability, and therefore there is no limitation of Hanuman how far he can go. So then Jambavan, he tries to inspire Hanuman, reminding Hanuman of his powers, reminding Hanuman of his strengths. And then Hanuman throws in sights. Massive sights he takes out. And Hanuman runs towards a mountain named Mahendra Parvat. And in 3 leaps, Hanuman reaches on top of the mountain. The Vanaras, who are standing below, are shocked at the transformation of Hanuman in a few seconds. Hanuman was one of them. He was their colleague. Now a colleague has become a hero. It's not easy to handle the transformation of someone whom you know so closely, who has been one of you, and suddenly becomes a celebrity. Suddenly becomes a big hero, suddenly becomes very famous. Very difficult to handle, isn't it? A sudden change of roles. Prabhupada used to talk about this story of naked Panchu. There's one young boy became a judge, and everybody used to make fun of him. They say, impossible, how this fellow can become a judge? He used to roam around naked in our village, So when you see an equal becoming a hero, when you see someone who is with you, who has grown with you, who's probably become a devotee along with you, suddenly become massively transformed, very evolved over in a short period of time, it's very difficult to handle it. But the way the Vanaras dealt with this was amazing. It is so inspiring to see that. When the Vanaras saw Hanumanji standing on top of the mountain, they began to clap, they began to cheer, they began to shout out with great joy. They didn't feel envious. They didn't say, hey, this fellow roamed around with us 2 months, now suddenly how he's become a hero. They didn't say that, I don't believe that this fellow can do much. No, they were just so happy. It takes a heart which is not envious to celebrate others' success. And it is so important to learn to celebrate others' success. Hanuman is standing on top of that mountain. He is looking across the ocean towards Lanka. This is the second mountain that every devotee has to climb when you are on the journey towards Bhakti Devi. The second mountain represents thoughts. The ocean, which is a massive ocean, represents something known as Deha Abhiman. Deha Abhiman means pride of having this body. We all have a body. We are not the body, but we have a body. And the problem is that we are so proud of this body. There is such a massive amount of pride that we carry about this body. And the most amazing thing is, no matter how ugly you are, when you look at yourself in the mirror, when you look at yourself in your cameras, you look beautiful. At least you are in the illusion that you look beautiful, basically. That's what Deha Abhiman is, essentially. And it's an ocean, not easy to cross. To cross over this ocean of Deha Abhiman, you need to stand on the mountain of lofty thoughts. You have to stand on a mountain of higher perspectives, very high level of thinking. Only then you can cross over such a big ocean. Therefore, if you look at Bhagavad Gita, that's how Bhagavad Gita started, isn't it? Bhagavad Gita starts with Krishna, with Arjun being lost in an ocean of bodily attachments. And Krishna helps him climb this mountain of philosophy, of lofty thoughts, and look at the ocean from a higher perspective. So when Arjun saw it from a higher perspective, he was able to cross the Deha Abhiman. And therefore Hanuman was standing on the top of this mountain and looking at the ocean. And it was amazing that Hanuman, when he looks into the ocean, he looks, he is analyzing the ocean that he has to cross. Very confident, very inspired. And Hanuman, he prays to all the great gods and he jumps across the ocean. So when Hanuman takes a leap across from the Mahendra Parvat, some amazing things happen. I mean, I can go into great details, which I'm not going into today. I usually take at least about 12 sessions, 1 hour each, to cover the Sundara Kaanda of Ramayana. So I'm giving you the Sundara Kaanda in like 1 hour, So reducing the 12 hours into just a 1 hour capsule, basically. So Hanumanji, he jumps from the mountain, the Mahendra Parvat. And when Hanuman jumps, he takes a leap. He creates a suction force. When it's a massive force that he jumps with, right? When he creates the suction force, what really happens is that when Hanuman flies, along with him, many things fly because of the suction force. There are trees flying behind Hanumanji. There are animals flying, lions are flying, elephants are flying along with Hanumanji. Yeah? They're just helplessly getting pulled along with him. The Acharyas explain, just like someone who visits a village, and after spending a few days in the village, the person leaves the village, all the villagers walk with him to the edge of the village, and then he goes away alone. Yeah? And the villagers come back home. So like this, all these trees and leaves and rocks and animals are flying along with Hanumanji, and after some time, Hanumanji goes ahead, and all of them fall back into the ocean. It's like the villagers returning back to the village, like that. And Hanumanji is, flying across the ocean. And as he flies across the ocean, there are many hurdles that come on his way. And these hurdles that Hanumanji encounters represent the different hurdles that a spiritualist, sadhaka, encounters in his journey towards Bhakti Devi. The first hurdle that Hanumanji comes across is this massive mountain named Mainak. It's a golden mountain. In fact, Varuna, who is the ocean god, he asks Mainak to go and serve Hanumanji. Why? Because ocean is also called Sagara. And Sagara was created by Sagar Maharaj, who was one of the ancestors of Lord Ram. And Hanumanji is a servant of Lord Ram. So the ocean god thought, the servant of Ram, if I serve him, it is like serving Ram. And if I serve Ram, it is like serving Sagar, who has created me. So I am repaying my gratitude towards Sagar. So thinking like that, the ocean god told Mainak, go and serve Hanumanji. Mainak, this massive golden mountain, comes right on the path of Hanumanji and tells him, my dear Hanuman, you are tired. 2 months they have been searching for Sita. And 2 long months, Hanuman has not got a chance to sleep, not got a chance to eat much, not got a chance to relax. So this ocean, the Mainak tells him, my dear Hanuman, why don't you just relax on my mountain? I have the best of trees with beautiful fruits. I have the best of gardens. I have the best of lakes on the mountain with crystal clear, transparent water. I can probably arrange for a massage for you and whatever you want, you know. So the mind was inspiring Hanuman to just relax, take a comfort break, and then go. He told him, "You have a long journey to go. You have a lot to do so, to serve Lord Ram. You just take a break." Hanumanji tells him, "I'm sorry. Till I complete my service, Lord Ram, and return back to the message of Sita, I cannot take a break." Hanumanji just touches Mainak with his hands and moves away from there. Mainak represents the first obstacle that comes in our spiritual lives. As we are progressing rapidly in our spiritual life, there will always be some people who will tell you, "Why are you going so fast? What's the hurry?" There will be family members who will tell you, "Hey, why are you chanting so many rounds? Let the Lord also sleep for some time. You know, early morning you're getting up and shouting Krishna's names." So there are a lot of people who will time and again try to slow you down, and time and again tell you that spiritual life is not an emergency. But we have to be conscious like Hanuman, alert like Hanuman to understand the emergency that spiritual life is about. And be alert to deal with these proposals of being complacent. Hanumanji just goes ahead and then comes across a second obstacle. The second obstacle is a demoness named Surasa. Surasa is a massive demoness, and she tells Hanumanji that whoever passes over the ocean has to enter my mouth. This is a boon I've got of Lord Brahma. Hanumanji says, "I don't care for any boons, let me go." Surasa doesn't allow him. She opens her mouth wide. Hanuman becomes double the size of Surasa. Surasa opens her mouth wider. Hanumanji becomes triple her size. And this goes on and on and on. Still Surasa's mouth is wide open till the sky, literally. Hanumanji then suddenly takes the size of a mosquito, enters her mouth, comes out of the mouth, and tells her, "See, I have entered your mouth and come out. Lord Brahma's boon is taken care of. Let me go." Surasa actually becomes impressed with his intelligence. She blesses him that he will become successful in his journey, and she lets him go. Surasa represents the second obstacle that comes in our sadhaka's life as he is moving towards Bhakti Devi. The second obstacle a devotee meets is the competitive mentality. Many times we end up trying to compete with one another, trying to show that I'm bigger than you, I'm more senior than you, I'm more advanced than you. So Hanumanji was, growing. Surasa was becoming bigger. Hanumanji was growing bigger. Surasa was becoming even bigger. At one point, Hanumanji thought, "What will I get by showing Surasa I'm bigger than her?" He said, "In the process of trying to prove that I'm bigger than her, I'm forgetting my destination. There are a lot of people who are so busy proving that I'm so senior to you that they forget the purpose of being a devotee. The purpose of being a devotee is not to show that I'm bigger, I'm more senior than you, I'm more advanced than you, I do more fast than you, I do more chant." That's not the purpose for which we practice spiritual life, isn't that? The purpose for which we practice spiritual life is to reach Bhakti Devi, to experience devotion in our lives, to develop love of God in our lives. But unfortunately, so many of us are so caught up in just trying to prove that I'm better than somebody else. We're so caught up in this competitive mentality that we forget the reason we are here. How do you deal with competitive mentality? The way Hanuman dealt with it. You don't deal with competitive mentality by trying to prove that I'm bigger than somebody else. Hanuman, he reduced himself to the size of a fly. He said, the only way you can deal with competitive mentality is by becoming small, becoming humble. Hanuman said, "My dear Surasa, you are big. Don't try to prove that you're better than somebody else. Try to improve yourself." Hanuman felt the goal of my life is not to prove. The goal of my life is to improve. Hanuman went ahead on the journey towards Bhakti Devi. And that's when Hanuman, he felt, if I am going very close to the ocean, these people are going to keep coming and troubling me. I want to go fly very, very high. It is explained that there are many levels of flights. The level at which the birds fly is one level, crows and the pigeons and all of them. There's a level at which the kinnaras fly. Kinnaras are a particular species of higher beings. Higher than that is the level at which the Chanaras fly. Higher than that is the level at which the Apsaras fly. Higher than that is the level at which Garuda flies. Much higher than that is the level at which Lord Shiva flies. It's explained, Hanuman was flying at the level of Lord Shiva because he himself was Rudra. Yeah? So he didn't want to fly anywhere close to the ocean because these disturbances are keeping on coming. So he flew so high in the sky. Interestingly, no matter how high you fly, your shadow will always be on the ground. So Hanumanji was flying so high in the sky and the sun was above him. So his shadow was in the ocean. Flying high represents being successful in life. Hanuman was flying very high that day. But his shadow was on the ground. And there was a lady named Sindhika. Her name also is Chaya Grahi. So the word Chaya Grahi means, Chaya means shadow. And Grahi means one who can hold your shadow and pull you down. So Sindhika had the ability to hold the shadow of any person and pull the person down. So Hanumanji, as he was flying right on top, the shadow was on the ocean. Sindhika caught the shadow and dragged Hanumanji down. And Hanuman flew straight into her mouth. Hanuman entered the mouth of Sindhika, through her guts, entered into her stomach, tore open her belly and came out. And Sindhika was dead. Sindhika represents the third obstacle that comes in a sadhaka's life. The third obstacle is envy. Envy should not be harbored in a devotee's life. The only way to deal with envy is to destroy it. There is no place for envy in a devotee's life. Envious people are always looking for one shortcoming in a successful person. Hanumanji flying high represents being successful, right? And the shadow being on the ground represents a fault that you may have. No matter how successful you are, you will always have one flaw at least in you. One defect at least in you. People who are envious don't look at all the good things that you have done in life. They look for that one mistake you have done. They look for that one flaw that you have. And they catch that one flaw very intensely and pull you down with it. That's the nature of envy. Hanumanji finally landed in Lanka. The place where he landed, the mountain on which he landed, was known as Suvela. Suvela represents the third mountain which a sadhaka has to climb before reaching Bhakti Devi. So the first mountain represents the mountain of faith. The second mountain represents the mountain of thoughts. And the third mountain represents the mountain of renunciation. Vairagya. So when Hanuman landed on Suvela, in front of him was the golden city of Lanka. The same city that Angad was so scared of reaching. He was so scared of being caught by in the temptations of Lanka. Hanumanji, when he looked at Lanka, he didn't feel agitated at all. He didn't feel that he was bewildered by the razzle-dazzle of the city. Why? Because Hanuman was standing on the mountain of renunciation. Only when you're standing on the mountain of renunciation, you will not be attracted by all the mundane glitters of this world. And therefore, for anyone who wants to attain Bhakti Devi, all of us have to learn to climb these three mountains in our life. And then Hanuman came across fourth mountain which he didn't climb. The fourth mountain is the mountain on which Ravan stood. The palace of Ravan was built on a mountain known as Trikuta Parvat, the peaks of the Trikuta mountain. And the fourth mountain represents pride. Imagine, Sita was with Ravan. Though she was with Ravan, Ravan couldn't understand her. Ravan couldn't connect with her. Why? Because Ravan was sitting on the mountain of pride. When you're sitting on the mountain of pride, Sita Devi is not accessible to you. You cannot access the mercy of Mother Sita. And therefore, Hanumanji, he climbed up three mountains. The mountain of faith, the mountain of thoughts, and the mountain of renunciation. But he didn't climb the mountain of pride. Because when you climb the mountain of pride, Sita becomes inaccessible to you. Hanumanji then goes around searching for Mother Sita across Lanka. While he enters Lanka, just when he's about to enter the gates of Lanka, he is stopped in his tracks by this massive lady named Lankini. Lankini stops Hanumanji. She tells him, who are you and how are you entering Lanka? Hanumanji said, I'm monkey and I came to know that there are good fruits in Lanka. I'm going to eat the fruits. Lankini said, do you have Ravan's permission? She said, not even a fly can enter Lanka without Ravan's permission. Hanumanji said, see, I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm only going to go, I'll eat some fruits and I'll roam around the city and I'll come back. Lankini said, no. Without Ravan's permission, no one can enter. Hanumanji said, see, I'm a monkey. When a monkey decides to do something, it will do it anyways. Whether you give permission or no, I will anyway do it. If you give me permission, I'll do it quietly and come back. If you don't give me permission, I will anyway do it. So Lankini got really furious looking at Hanuman's, audacity. She pushed him with her hands. Imagine pushing Hanuman, and Hanuman was pushed backwards by many yards. And then Hanuman got angry. Hanuman jumped down and with one fist, he punched her. Of course, knowing that it's a lady, he reduced the power of the punch very significantly. But the punch, when it landed on Lankini, she collapsed on the ground. She fell unconscious. After a few minutes, she woke up and she said, Hanumanji, please welcome to Lanka. Imagine, she was so long not allowing her, like typical immigration officers, making a big fuss of why you can't enter and why, your permission. But the moment one punch she got from Hanumanji, sudden transformation. She remembered a story from her past life. She said, in my previous life, I was a guard in Lord Brahma's palace in Satyaloka. And I was very arrogant while standing as a guard in Brahma's palace. Watchmen usually are a little tough, They behave also very strictly many times, over strictly also sometimes, So Lankini, she was very, very arrogant when she was a guard in Brahma's palace. Brahma was very upset with her insensitivity towards dealing with people. He cursed her, because you are acting so arrogant. I curse you that you will be born among the demons. And in front of demons who are more arrogant than you will become humble. What a way to make a person humble, isn't it? Put that fellow in front of people who are more arrogant than him or her, So Hanumanji, Lankini, she was over here. But with that one punch of Hanumanji, she remembered all her past. And she said, I beg forgiveness from Brahma. Brahma told me, the day a Vanara comes and beats you, that day you should know the end of Lanka has come. So Lankini left Lanka. She said, I'm going from here. Now I know Ravan is gone. And she went away. Imagine, what did one moment's association with Hanumanji do to Lankini? When we try to inspire people to take up Krishna consciousness, we have to spend months and years and decades with them somehow to become devotees, to get realization. But here, Hanumanji, with one punch, he downloaded the entire Vedabase into Lankini. And she understood also. Amazing, isn't it? What a transformation. Hanuman doesn't have to give big lectures. He doesn't have to invite people for festivals. He doesn't have to, do so much to bring a person to become a devotee. One punch, that's all it takes. That's why it says, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoye. And the idea of Guru being heavy, it's visible here. Hanuman is really heavy on her. Satsang should be like a boxing match. Every time you come to satsang, at least you should feel one punch on your false ego. So if you come to a satsang and you don't experience any punch, any box on your false ego, you have not attended a satsang program at all. Satsang has to hurt the false ego, just a little bit at least. That's when transformation can happen. That's when some kind of learning can happen. Hanumanji here, he gave a good satsang to Lankini and then went into Lanka. As he was roaming around Lanka, in many of the palaces, and he saw so many things in Lanka, he couldn't find Sita. In the end, towards the last phase of his search, he came across Ravan's bedroom, where he saw so many thousands of women And at one particular point, he saw one lady, and the moment he saw her, he felt he had seen Sita. And he was like really confused for a moment, and for a moment he just thought it was Sita. And when he saw this lady sleeping in the bedroom of Ravan, gorgeously dressed, so beautiful to look at, Hanumanji started celebrating, thinking it is Sita. And you know what he started doing? He started jumping, he started, twirling around, he started kissing his own tail. And monkeys are very happy they kiss their tail, it seems. And Hanuman was so excited doing all this. And then a few seconds later, calm down. He said, this can't be Sita. How can Sita sleep in Ravan's bedroom? And that too so peacefully. How can Sita be so gorgeously decorated when she is not with her husband Ram? So Hanuman felt, oh, this cannot be Sita. And then again he became disappointed. So then he started roaming around, other parts of Lanka. And at one particular point, he came across this beautiful garden named Ashok Vatika. In Ashok Vatika, there was a beautiful tree, which is known as a Shubha tree. And the tree was exuding a golden effulgence. And as Hanuman got closer, he realized the effulgence is not from the tree, but from the person who's sitting under the tree. And the moment he saw that lady, instantly his hands folded. Instantly his hands folded. His head bent down in veneration. He actually became sober, calm, and very focused. This is the difference when you experience material energy and when you experience spiritual energy. Material energy excites you. Material things excite you a lot. So when Hanuman saw Mandodari, he became excited. But when Hanuman saw Sita, he became sober. The moment you come across spiritual energy, it sobers you down. It calms you down. It makes you prayerful. But when you see material energy, it excites you. It enthralls you. You really become excited about it. Hanuman, when he saw Mother Sita, he had an experience that was amazing. When Hanuman left from Kishkinda in search of Sita, he had a doubt. His doubt was, why are so many millions of monkeys searching for one woman? Is it really worth spending so much time searching for one woman? Of course, Hanuman is a brahmachari and he was a monkey on top of that. So he had no idea what these sentiments meant. So Hanuman was just feeling that why is Ram wasting so much time, searching for one person. But when Hanuman saw Mother Sita for the first time, his mood completely changed. The thought that he had was, how did Ram survive for 10 months without her? Immediately his thought changed. And then, so how did Hanuman recognize Sita? It's very interesting if you look at it from this point of view. Now, obviously, Ram had not shown Hanuman any picture of Sita. It was not that there was some Instagram account of Sita where all her photos were uploaded, and Hanuman could comfortably see who she is and compare the photo. Nothing like that. How did Hanuman recognize this as Sita for sure? Something amazing. It is explained that when Hanuman saw Sita's face, her facial expressions, her facial features looked exactly like Ram. She had attained what is known as Sarupya Mukti. Because she was so much absorbed in Ram all the time, she began to look like Ram only. So Hanuman didn't have a big difficulty in recognizing Sita because she looked exactly like Ram. I'm sure many of you would have seen husband and wives in Kali Yuga also who look similar, exactly like each other, right? Especially when they're very old. I mean, it's so amazing how they look because they've been meditating on each other for whole life. They begin to look like each other. And this is the spiritual way of looking at it from a spiritual perspective, And Hanumanji, when he went in front of Mother Sita, he took a very tiny form. And took this little tiny form and came in front of Mother Sita. I'm cutting the whole story short. I'm just going to focus on one little bit part of the story to end our discussion today. So Hanumanji, when he came in a tiny form in front of Mother Sita, so Hanuman, the reason he took the tiny form was he wanted to hear once from Mother Sita the word son. He wanted her to call him Putra or son. That's all. And when you're in a tiny form, it's easier for a lady to call up a child, right? So the moment Sita saw Hanumanji, she did call him son, but so Hanumanji tells her, "My dear mother, why don't you come with me? I'll take you to Ram." Sita looks at him, he's so small, and he's telling, "Come with me." So she is not able to understand how this fellow will take me, but she doesn't want to offend him also. So she asks him a very interesting question. She asks him, "Are all the Vanaras of Ram's army same size as you?" So Hanumanji immediately understands that she has doubt in his ability, basically. So Hanumanji expands himself and shows his massive form. Sukshma Rupa Dhari Siyai Dikava, Vikatu Rupa Dhari. Massive form he shows to Mother Sita. And now Sita is confused looking at his massive form. She asks him another question. She asks him, "What is your original size? Are you small? Are you big? Are you medium size?" I mean, imagine somebody's size keeps changing, Very difficult to deal with such a person, right? So Hanumanji gives her an amazing answer. Hanumanji tells her, "My dear mother, originally I'm small, I'm insignificant. But for the mission of Lord Ram, I can take any size." This, in my understanding, is a definition of humility. In ISKCON, many times we don't understand humility, what humility means. Unfortunately, we wrongly understand humility. Like if somebody tells you, "Prabhuji, can you please do this seva?" Typically, we say, "No, Prabhu, I'm insignificant, I'm useless, I'm lower than a woman's stool," and we end up not doing it. But look at what Hanuman is doing. Hanuman is saying, "I'm small, I'm insignificant, but for the mission of the Lord, I can take any size." Here, size means responsibility. So he is not saying that, I am great. He is only saying that for the Lord, I can do anything. Because the Lord can empower me to do anything. In my understanding, this is one of the most powerful definitions of humility I've come across. And it's so realistic, isn't it? We all get opportunities to serve. But many times, because we don't understand what humility is, in the name of humility, we reject service. We say no to service, isn't it? And look at Hanumanji here. He has such a practical and such a realistic way, and yet such a humble way of looking at the opportunity to serve. Sundara Kaanda of the Ramayana is considered to be one of the most powerful sections of the Ramayana. The other kinds of the Ramayana are long, The Ayodhya Kaanda of the Ramayana is literally 12 years of age it talks about. The Aranya Kaanda of Ramayana, the Bala Kaanda of Ramayana is 12 years of span. The Ayodhya Kaanda of Ramayana is almost close to about 13 years of, the discussion, 13 years of span. And Aranya Kaanda of Ramayana is again about 13 to 14 years of span. The Kishkinda Kaanda of Ramayana is about 4 to 5 months of, duration. And the Yuddha Kaanda is almost about 20 days, 25 days of duration. But the Sundara Kaanda of the Ramayana is the only book that is 2 days. The entire Sundara Kaanda is only 2 days of episode. Whatever happened in 2 days is in the Sundara Kaanda. And this is the quickest, most powerful section of the Ramayana, and it's one of the most amazing sections of the Ramayana. So I gave you all a little glimpse of the Sundara Kaanda of the Ramayana, and I hope that glimpse has made you all desperate enough to want to study more and delve in more and understand more of the Ramayana. Thank you very much. Stop here. You can take some questions and comments.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That was a very wonderful lecture, and you covered so many insights. And I remember whenever I have heard your lecture, I generally take so many notes that I have to actually, when I'm hearing your lectures, I have to pause it 100 times because you cover so many important points in your lecture. But when you are doing it live, it is not possible. So I have to definitely hear this lecture one more time to take all those lessons and insights that you have covered. And somehow or the other, by your blessings, I have also got this style somehow or the other now. When I'm giving lectures, I have to have some lessons and insights from the lecture. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Your lectures have helped me in my Krishna consciousness immensely throughout my spiritual life, and I can see today as well, the devotees are they were taking lots of notes, and there are already some questions which are coming in. So we'll take those questions now. So the first question is coming from Kirtivanta Prabhu. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhamma Pranams. Prabhuji, very, very nice class. Really enjoyed all of the points that you had. My question, Prabhuji, if we go back near the beginning where you mentioned Angad was leading the army, he represented intelligence, and you have Lord Hanuman who represents faith, and he's at the back. And then there comes a time when you've got to flip it. When do you know what is the time to apply faith and when is the time to apply intelligence? How can you tell that in your spiritual life? Is there a formula or a mindset that we can use to try and understand when we should apply at what stage?
So ideally, we should always use intelligence. Ideally, in our spiritual journeys and spiritual practice, we should use the intelligence as much as we can. Srila Prabhupada defines enthusiasm as endeavor executed with intelligence and Krishna consciousness. So intelligence has to always be in the forefront in all our spiritual endeavors. But you will come across times in your life where your planning, your intelligence, your logic, your reasoning doesn't help you. There will be situations in life where you will become helpless in front of the obstacles, the calamities, the problems that you come across. At that point in time, instead of struggling too much trying to use your intelligence, which again and again, doesn't really help you, quietly put your intelligence behind. And that's when you take shelter of faith. And these situations become very obvious in your life. Become very obvious. Unfortunately, what happens is that in those situations, a lot of people tend to become agnostic rather than bringing in faith into the life. They become very angry, they become very upset because they have been depending too much on their own plans.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And the next question is coming from Bharadwaj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, and a very insightful lecture. Like Amrish Prabhuji mentioned, I tried to take notes, but then you're covering so many points. We have to go back and write complete essay. Prabhuji, thank you very much. Prabhuji, my question is, you mentioned about when Hanuman actually met Surasa demon. Right, and so they were actually increasing the size, and then suddenly Hanuman became very small, and then he very intelligently he went and came out. So the lesson there, you said that actually we should lower ourselves, right? So how do we do that? Like, do you have any practical tips, Prabhuji?
So I was talking about. Let me give you a simple example. If you come across a devotee who's trying to ask you how many rounds you do on Ekadasis, or trying to ask you, do you do Nirjal on every Ekadasi? I do Nirjal on every Ekadasi. And if you come across a devotee who's telling you that how many hours of hearing you do every day, how many hours of reading you do every day. So usually what happens is that many devotees, unfortunately, end up trying to instigate the competitive spirit in us. They try to instigate the spirit of either showing that they are bigger than you or you are smaller than them. So it's unconscious many times and conscious many times, right? So, but we always come across this. We always come across people who are consciously or unconsciously trying to pull you into a competitive spirit. Like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you remember, there was this, he was on a boat with one Brahmana who had also written a book on grammar, Sanskrit grammar. And Lord Chaitanya also wrote this book, and this Brahmana saw this book of Lord Chaitanya. He said, after reading your book, who will read my book? Lord Chaitanya tossed his book into the river. Straight. Tossed his book into the river. And that person was shocked. I mean, it is in those days, you only had one copy. It's not that, Lord Chaitanya kept 10 copies in his home and he threw one copy here, Only copy Lord Chaitanya had, he threw into the river. That means Lord Chaitanya never wrote any book in his life. The only thing he ever wrote in his life is this one book. That he tossed it in the river. Because that's exactly the point here, Hanumanji and Lord Chaitanya in this particular instance, they don't give so much value to proving that I'm better than somebody else. Rather, they would say, Chalo, you are better than me, no problem. Just let me go ahead in life. Let me just go ahead in my spiritual journey. I don't want to get stuck in this whole, proving business. My goal is to improve myself. I'm not here to prove that I'm better than somebody else. My goal in life is to improve myself. And if my goal in life is to improve myself, I shouldn't get stuck in the wrong places. And the worst place to get stuck in is where you have to prove that you're better than somebody else.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji, the next question is coming from Sudanma Prabhu or Sudarma Madhu. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare.
Very, very beautiful session. Thanks for consolidating Sundara Kaanda in just 1 hour's time. Thank you, Prabhuji, for that. Prabhuji, my question is, you gave 2 examples here. One is of Surasa, where Hanuman actually became very small. And the other example is to get over Lankini, where he became very big. And you mentioned sometimes when somebody is you are arrogant, and if you put in front of him someone more arrogant, then the arrogance will go away. But what we are learning here is even before an arrogant person, we have to be very humbler, right? So why this? How to understand this?
Surasa represents the obstacle that comes in the mode of passion. So when you come across obstacle, which is the mode of passion, or then you deal with it in a particular way. So like a devotee who is very highly passionate about proving that I'm better than you, you deal by becoming humble. Lankini is a person in the mode of ignorance. People in the mode of ignorance, they have to be shaken up to bring them to reality. If you become humble in front of a person in the mode of ignorance, then you had it. They will eat you up, basically. So you can't become humble in front of someone who is in the mode of ignorance. There is something known as confrontation. Confrontation is actually one way of helping people. In psychology, confrontation is considered a method of psychology. It's a method of psychological treatment where to help someone who is very low in consciousness or very low in their mental abilities, you have to confront them. Confront means challenge their thinking, challenge their belief systems, shake them up. And only when you shake them up, they come out of that slumber. So Hanumanji is a very flexible devotee. He's not a rigid devotee. And that's why you see Hanuman taking different forms and different sizes. Very flexible. He can be small, he can be big, he can be medium. He can be in the front, he can be in the back, he can be in the middle. Hanumanji is not interested in position, he is not interested in post, he is not interested in any kind of power. What he is interested in is, he is interested in service. So if serving from the front is good, he'll do that. If serving on the back is good, he'll do that. If serving with humility is good, he'll do that. If serving with a slap is good, he'll do that also. So that's the whole idea. This whole idea of being flexible is so important for our Krishna consciousness. And it's not that, this is important or that is important. It depends on what situation you are in. According to the situation, we adopt, we become flexible the way we deal with things. And with different people, And it's said, different shloks for different folks. So according to whom you're dealing with, Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the next question is coming from Dipti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. Mine is more of a clarification. In Simhika's pastimes, you said that Hanuman was flying up in the air and he was flying at the level of Lord Shiva. So did you mention there that Hanuman is Lord Shiva? Or?
Yeah, I said Hanuman is Rudra. He's the 11th Rudra.
Okay. So he is an incarnation of Shiva, is it?
Yeah. The 11th Rudra is manifested in Hanumanji. Shiva Amsha.
Okay, that was that. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. The next question is coming from Saubhagya Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for your wonderful lecture. So my question is, Prabhuji, you said in Sadhu Sangha, we should get punch on our false ego so that we can progress in our bhakti. So as a sadhakas, when we get punch in the association of devotees, sometimes we may not take it as it easy. So it's very hard to take it and very hard to implement that it is for our own benefit. So how can we overcome from that problem, Prabhuji?
So, unfortunately, in today's age, disciples are very difficult. Being a teacher, being a guru is one of the most challenging roles to play in life, because dealing with the ego of the disciples is so much more difficult than dealing with your own mind sometimes. So the gurus today have to be very, very kind, because the disciples like us are very, very arrogant. I know it's very difficult for the false ego to handle any kind of chastisement or any kind of heaviness in dealings. Of course, what happens is that the spiritual master knows that. And usually, great devotees of the Lord, they don't exactly become heavy all the time. They give a lot of love 9 times, and one time they will speak something heavy. So that's a pretty good buffer for the false ego, to handle, right? So if the guru becomes heavy all 10 times, then we will run away. But because they give a good amount of buffer, it becomes easy to handle the box when it does come, right? And of course, as we grow in our spiritual journeys, we have to keep telling ourselves that praise is our enemy, and feedback, constructive feedback, especially criticism, is our friend. Unfortunately, we consider that praise is our best friend and criticism is our enemy. But that's not a fact. If anyone loves you, they will not just only praise you, they will also find faults in you to help you grow, isn't it? Now imagine if your parents never found any fault in you. Would we ever be trained nicely? Obviously not, right? The role of the parents is to find faults in their children. Why? Not to just show the child down, but to help the child grow and develop the right habits, isn't it?
Yes.
So the spiritual master, great devotees of the Lord, are like parents. Primarily, they're concerned about us and our spiritual journey, spiritual growth. And whatever they do is out of that concern. And when we understand that whatever they do is out of that concern, we don't become angry when they chastise us. In fact, we become grateful.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there is, you mentioned about the definition of humility, which was very, very interesting. So Hanuman thought that originally he's small or insignificant, whereas for Lord Rama's task, he can take any size. So that is actually showing also the missionary spirit, which was there when at Srila Prabhupada's time, that most of his disciples, though they were just very new, they actually took so much responsibility on their shoulders. And they were actually showing this Hanuman spirit, that small or big, they will take any service. But whereas in ISKCON at this point in time, we do not see that much missionary spirit that we used to see at Srila Prabhupada's time. So what can we do to bring back that attitude?
First of all, we should pay our respects to all those great souls who showed so much missionary spirit and so took so much risk. And pray at the Lotus feet that hopefully we get the strength to take the risk of going out of our house during Corona period. That's the level at which we are. Anyway, that is on the lighter side. So my understanding is the ability to take risks comes only when you understand how important the mission is. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, our own lives, our own comforts are more important than the purpose of our life. So you have to either subordinate your desires for your goals, or you have to subordinate your goals for your desires. So a lot of people end up subordinating their goals for their desires, and that's why they don't end up sacrificing at all. But when you are so much focused on a goal, on a purpose in life, that's only when you can subordinate all your desires for the sake of that purpose. So that's why it's the responsibility of each and every one of us to take ownership for the mission. ISKCON doesn't belong to somebody else. ISKCON is ours. It's our mission. Each and every one of us are responsible for the spreading of Krishna consciousness, helping so many people become connected to Krishna consciousness. As long as we have that fire inside us, the desire inside us, we will find a way to do it. And no obstacle will stop us. But unfortunately, because we don't have that desire inside us very strongly there, one small obstacle comes and we give up. So I think getting the blessings of these great souls is one thing, and second is that cultivating the right desire in our hearts to be, a missionary ready to spread the mission far and wide.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, do you have some more time? It looks like even the Prabhuji has another question.
Yeah. You can take another question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is also referring to the Surasa pastime and about competition. I came very late in my life to Krishna consciousness, and so growing up, I was an avid sports player. And so when you're playing sports all the time, competition is the key. You are trying to be better than the person next to you. You're trying to be better than the opposition. You're always trying to make yourself better and better. And so, as we've heard, it's not conducive in devotional service. We also know that everything can be used in Krishna service. So is there a way that we can use our competitive nature in Krishna service? And also, how do we also get rid of that competitive nature and get past it? And what things can we do to get past it quicker and progress from that?
Thank you for the question. I'll give you an answer from sports. To be a good sportsman, first thing is that don't compete with your own team members. Compete with other people. Unfortunately, we end up competing with our own people. I mean, if anybody is a good sportsman, you have to first identify who your enemy is, who your opponent is. The problem is that we start competing with people who are our own people. I mean, they are our team members. Come on, what do we achieve by getting better than them? What do we achieve by proving that we are better than them, right? So I feel that this is where we make a mistake. In one sense, we lose the spirit of sportsmanship, right? The moment you start competing with your own people. The worst thing for any team is when two people who are the best players in the team compete with each other for shooting the goal. That's the worst thing that can happen for any team, isn't it? Same thing. In Krishna consciousness, all of us are part of one team. And we are competing against the whole material world. We have millions of people to make them devotees. And we are here busy like Surasa trying to prove that we are better than the fellow who is next to us. right? That's where the problem is.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Mindset change.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That was, as I said, it was a very wonderful lecture and very interesting question and answers as well. Very shortly, you have answered many of those questions, but very aptly. So thank you, Prabhuji. And we are looking forward to your lecture on 11th of April on the actual Ram Navami day. Let us show our gratitude for Prabhuji once again by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for him. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Is Shubha Vilas Prabhuji ki